All right, so let's make a video with more information on circles. So some of these problems are going to be problems that you're going to encounter next year in Algebra 2 honors. So let's look at this example. So we're going to call this example 1. The equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 6y plus 9 equals 0. Find the center and the radius of the circle. Then I want you to graph the circle. So first off, we have to look at this and go, well, it's not in the format we want. And if you remember, the format we want is, let's change this to purple. We want x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So I want my y and x values squared. So let's start off by just grouping my x and y values together. So I'm going to write x squared minus 8x plus y squared plus 6y. And I'm going to move the 9 to the other side. And this is kind of similar to what you did last year. What we have to do is you have to come up with something that goes here that would give you x minus something squared, or x plus something squared. And then this has to give you y something squared. And it could be minus or plus. So what happens is, look at what we have. We have missing values. And we have to then do the process of completing the square from last year. And I know you're all so excited now. So completing the square, here it is. Welcome back. So I'm going to use orange. If you remember completing the square, we have to take half of the b term. So half of negative 8 is negative 4, and then you square it. So that's going to give you 16. So I'm going to add 16 here. But if you remember, if you add 16 to the left, you have to add it to the right. Now, complete the square here. Half of 6 squared gives you plus 9. So I then have to add 9 to the right as well. So now I can just factor into binomials. My perfect square trinomial factors in the binomials, which would be x minus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals, well, 16 and negative 9 plus 9 is 0, so just going to be 16. And now it's in the form we want. It's in standard form. So what do I know? I know that the center is where? Well, the center is going to be at 4, negative 3. And the radius is going to be what? It's going to be 4. And voila, that is what it would look like. So here's what I want you to do. In example 2, I want you to do this whole problem yourself. Get the answer, pause the video, actually pause the video, do the problem yourself to see if you know how to do it. Again, just by watching a video is not enough. You need to interact with the video. You need to write down notes. You need to write down the examples. So see if you can do this yourself. Pause the video and see if you can do this yourself. Pause the video. All right, let's see if you got it. If we did this correctly, you should get a center of 4, negative 2 and a radius of 6. And your circle, this is going to be a really rough drawing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So we're going to go a radius of, what is it, 6? Yep. And I ran out of room here. This is really bad, but it looks something like that. That's embarrassing. But that's okay. You get the idea. Now, the last problem is going to prove or disprove that the point root 2 lies on the circle centered at the origin and containing the point 2, 0. So, here we go. The first thing we have to do is we know that the circle centered at the origin and containing point 0, we have to find the radius. So how do you do that? Well, we know we have this formula. R squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And we know that it contains the point 2, 0. So, 2, 0, let's find the radius. So I'm going to plug in 2 minus 0. Now, why is I plugging in 0 for h? Because it's centered at the origin. So we know h and k are just going to be 0. Plus, and then this one's going to be 0 minus 0 squared. So that gives me r squared equals 2 squared, which we can just write 4. Minus 0, so that's it. R squared is 4, so the radius is what? The radius is 2. So if I know the radius is 2, where can I go from there? Well, here's what we do. We know the radius is 2. From there, we can use the radius is 2. No, oops. And I'm going to make a rough sketch here. We know it's centered at the origin. One of the points is 0, 0, but we know this point here, is this going to be 2, 2? Well, from here to here, let me do the stylus. From here to here, it goes from point 0, 0 to root 2, root 2. So what should this distance be? Well, that distance should be 2 because that's the radius, and that would be a radius. So we're just going to verify if it is or not. So we're going to find the distance of it. So the distance between these 2 points, distance formula, I subtract my x values, so root 2 minus 0 is just root 2 squared. Subtract my y values, root 2 minus 0 squared. That would give me the distance of the square root of root 2 squared, which is just 2, plus 2. Distance is square root of 4, so that means the distance is 2. So what does that mean? That means this distance is 2, which is also the radius, which we know the radius is 2, therefore verifying that the point, root 2, does in fact lie on the circle centered at the origin containing the point 2, 0.